But before that, the polls simply aren't getting any better for the Conservatives, and one that came out over the weekend had them winning a pitiful 72 seats in next month's general election. Now, if they are wiped out on July the 4th, would it be time for them to go back to the future and bring back Boris Johnson? Well, if you recall, seems like a lifetime ago now, but he won a thumping majority in 2019. But he was ousted, of course, as Prime Minister in 2022. Well, I'm joined now by the journalist who thinks Boris Johnson should come to the rescue and save Britain from Sir Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage. And that's Trevor Kavanagh, who's a political columnist, of course, with The Sun. Trevor, always a delight. So I read your column this morning with much interest. Is it time to bring back the big dog?
Well, I think Boris isn't going to come back immediately, but once the election is over and the dust settles on the wreckage of the Tory party, if the opinion polls are correct, that is, I think that's when he'll come back. And he'll need a safe seat. I think that someone will be happy to make one available to him. And he remains, whatever you think about Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, he remains one of the most potent vote catchers in the political world at the moment. So, and certainly I think that he has never really gone away. I think that he's been thinking in his period of exile about just what he could do to get back in. I mean, what else is he going to do with his life?
Well, what do you think motivates Boris now? He must be earning a packet. He's away from the cut and thrust of daily politics, not having his life continually pored over and circumnavigated by journalists. Surely life's much easier for him outside of politics. Why would he be tempted back into the bear pit?
Well, I think he's probably earning quite a good income from his freelance activities right now. But, you know, once you've been in a position of absolute power in the almost absolute power in Downing Street, it's hard to just become a newspaper columnist again. And although I'm sure he's enjoying his position of being able to snipe from the sidelines, especially against Rishi Sunak, who he blames for all his woes and the fact that he was brought down after delivering an 80-seat majority, I think that also motivates him. A feeling of perhaps revenge, quite understandably, against those ungrateful people who kicked him out after he took them to victory.
Now, Trevor, you say, though, there's one fly in the ointment, and that fly, of course, is the shape of Nigel Farage. He also would like to be a future leader to rebuild the Conservative Party, and you intimate, perhaps, Boris and Nigel could do some kind of deal.
Yes, the thing is about those polls you mentioned, if they were borne out by events, Nigel Farage and his Reform Party could end up with 6 or 7 seats in the Commons, which is quite a grouping. I mean, that's not a single voice. It's a little bit of, it's big enough for the Speaker to have to recognise them and give them a voice now and again in the debate. So I think that would transform events if indeed this Armageddon scenario ensued. Were that to be the case, I think that he would certainly make a pitch and has actually declared his intention to try and seize control of the remains of the Conservative Party and build it in his own image. And there are people within the party who very much are against that. People led by, for instance, David Cameron, who is not necessarily always an ally of Boris Johnson, but they are the sort of Remainers, the Wets, the people who don't like the right-wing lurch to the on immigration or net zero. Interestingly, both of which are issues that Boris embraces and which Nigel Farage is ferociously critical of.
Super stuff. Trevor Kavanagh, a Goliath of Fleet Street. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us.